everything is being digitized. Everything from DNA sequences to video to documents, all of these things kind of add up very quickly. We're all part of this digital world, and storing and understanding and making sense of that information is going to be a challenge for everyone, including probably storytellers. A terabyte is about a hard drive. A zettabyte is 1 billion of those hard drives. To give you perspective, we have about 1.8 zettabytes. The estimates are by 2015, we'll have about 50 zettabytes of information. And so it's increasing at a tremendous pace. We've been futzing with electronic ways of storage for now 30 years or so, and we're starting to reach limits on how dense we can store information on a surface. I've been a biologist for most of my career, and we're really interested in biological technologies and also understanding biology. So DNA happens to be a very good source of information storage, and it has been for billions of years. DNA has a couple of advantages. We can read and write it at very large scales is one advantage. The second advantage is that DNA is super compact. Just to give an analogy of the density, we talk about what it would take to store a petabyte of information. So a petabyte is about 1,000 current hard drives. And to store a petabyte of information in DNA would take about 1.5 milligrams in total weight of DNA, which is about the equivalent of a grain of pollen. And we know that DNA lasts a long time. DNA is extremely stable for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The way the process works essentially is we take a file on your computer. So in this case, we took a book called Regenesis by George Church and Ed Regis. It was a draft HTML version of the book. And we chose it for a couple of reasons. One is that it has essentially other formats of digital storage, like images and JavaScript and HTML formatting, that we thought would be kind of neat to include in something like this, to really show or highlight that you can store any kind of information. There's actually a section in the book talking about this work. So in that sense, it's somewhat meta in describing how biology might serve as a way to store information in the future. So it's just a normal HTML page on your computer, but we take what the basic encoding is, or ones and zeros that are listed on your computer, and we converted them to nucleic acid sequences, so A, T, C, and G. And what we can do is basically make a representation in DNA of the digital sequence. We print them using inkjet printing, essentially, and so you can print out your DNA sequences on a glass slide. When you store the DNA, you're storing it as a little dried piece of film, essentially, at the bottom of a tube. It would be maybe 1 milligram of DNA, so about the size of a mosquito. There is a relationship, and it's somewhat interesting, of the information that our body encodes. So, in each one of our cells, we have a copy of our genetic code. And in some ways, it tells, to some extent, our stories. But it was really just thinking a little differently about the uses of DNA is what really led us down this road. Rather than using the organism itself, can we use the molecular components to do interesting new technological things? DNA could be used as a storage medium. The major impediment right now is that it costs a lot. But the costs of both reading and writing DNA have been dropping much, much faster than traditional electronic media. And so if you follow the trends, we're talking about 10 years or so to become a useful source of information storage if we continue along the path of dropping about 5 to 10-fold a year in price. Information storage is only getting better, and the amount of information we're storing is only getting much, much larger. It is a blessing and a curse. It's good in the sense that we're able to go back and really look at accurately historical items and stories. But at the same time, it's going to be increasingly hard to find the interesting ones or find the relevant ones. The ability to synthesize and tell stories from large amounts of information is going to become increasingly important.